Hey, Bulls and Bears, what is happening? It is Monday. It is April 24th, 2023. Big, huge news coming out here. Zimbabwe, the country with massive hyperinflation, going back to gold. Going back to gold. And ultimately, I've said here for years that I think that the solution to all this monetary madness is going to be sound money. Money finally backed again by precious metals. I think silver is going to be part of it. Well, let's take a look what's happening in Zimbabwe. This is out of Bloomberg. Lots of other, well-known financial news publications talking about this here. Just came out yesterday. Zimbabwe to introduce gold-backed digital currency. That's Sunday Mail, which is a Zimbabwe publication. That's where Bloomberg got the report here, but it has been verified. Now go back to March, and we talked about how Zimbabwe wants to join the BRICS nations as far as going outside of the dollar. And, this is another step towards what I've been saying here for years is going to be precious metals backed into our currency. Now, I think the world's going to have to go through a lot of turmoil, including the U.S., maybe as bad as what Zimbabwe has already went through. But will the rest of the world, or the U.S. and the U.S., have to get into some sort of a collapse like Zimbabwe's been in for years before we'll finally introduce, sound money back here in the United States? Take a look at some of the numbers out of Zimbabwe. It's easy to see why they have chosen to try to re-implement hard assets into their currency, or back their currency by gold in this case. The annual price inflation, cost of living inflation, measured from month to month, reached a one-year low last month in March at 87.6%, and that was a one-year low. Months prior to that, let's go back to October of 2022, inflation was 108%. So prices more than doubled in October 2022. Since then, it's been declining. March, just last month, was 87%, so still nearly doubling back last month in March. So once gold-backed currency gets implemented, and it will be on a digital platform so people can pay with their phones and use digital transactions, digital methods, but the amount of currency that's going to be created or printed will be limited by the amount of gold that they have in reserves. Now, this is only as good as the people that are running it. There can be bad things happening behind the scenes. Maybe they say they're going to back it by gold and they really won't. But this is what's being reported at a lot of news publications, even Bloomberg. Now, before we get into the rest of the day's news, a word here from our sponsor related to sound money. Take a listen, and we'll see you on the other side for more huge news.
Noble Gold Investments have made it their mission to stay on top of the most important economic news. 3 bank runs in the last month. These are the second largest and the third largest bank runs in history. The government is taking steps to guarantee all deposits. That means more money printing. Plus, the Fed is sitting on unrealized losses of $1.2 trillion on their $8.3 trillion bond portfolio. And the Fed could continue to raise interest rates until they crash the economy. Do you know who are the only ones that are not afraid? The ones who are invested in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is the most stable asset outside of any government control. Thousands have approached Noble Gold Investments to get their hands on gold. Hurry and go to bullboomgold.com to secure your wealth now. Bag a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin with each gold or silver IRA if you qualify. Go to bullboomgold.com. That's bullboomgold.com. The link is also in the description of this video.
Now, moreover, on this news out of Zimbabwe, it's reported that it's not going to be all the currency right away. It's going to be a small amount at first, and then more, and then more, and then more. But the plan is to have all of the dollars in Zimbabwe ultimately backed by gold. Now, I think with the devaluation that we've seen so far in Zimbabwe, it's going to take them quite a long time to get all of their currency backed by gold, because there's just so many dollars out there that are printed. And, it's going to be interesting to watch that, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it and stay on top of it for you. Now, speaking of hyperinflation, inflation, we've got the real numbers here out of Shadow Stats that tracks a bigger basket of items, or looks at a bigger basket of items as far as gauging inflation. And what we're coming up with, we saw a peak at about 15%. Now it's down a little over 8%, so about 8.5% according the shadow stats, compare that with the official number that that the media tells us here in the United States, which is about 5.5% here recently. So things are not accelerating as fast as they were, but they're still accelerating, meaning prices are going higher, the cost of living is going higher, except for a couple areas, but mostly what people have to buy just to get by and pay for from month to month is not getting much cheaper. A lot of things are still getting more expensive. Look at utility bills, look at insurance. Gas came down from the peak, but it's still way above where it was a couple years ago. So anyone that thinks declining inflation is, something that's going to, have us avoid this economic collapse, they're kidding themselves, because inflation going up slower is not a solution, right? We need a dropping cost of living. Now that brings us back to precious metals. Let's talk about some of the things I've been saying here. I've been saying here that I think precious metals is going to be silver, for example, double digits and then triple digits. Now that's in a inflationary scenario. Now anything can happen. Anything could happen. There could be massive deflation. We could wake it up. We could wake up tomorrow. This whole system could be broken apart, and we wake up and it broke. It just the mechanisms malfunction. There was a glitch. There was a blackout. The system went dark, and in that case, when you stop the money printing, you could see massive deflation and cost of living crashing. Now, what could happen though, precious metals may not go up to those numbers that I predict in that scenario, but at least you're going to hold your value. So instead of your stocks plunging, your home price plunging, and your assets plunging in value, precious metals is going to be a hedge against that. So even in deflation or inflation, I still think precious metals is going to be the place to be, because if the cost of everything comes down massively, but your precious metals, let's say silver, still stays above $20, you're still better off in those assets versus the assets that actually crashed. And also in inflation, if you don't have anything except for dollars that are going to get devalued with the cost of living going up, with inflation going up, you're also going to be hurting. So their precious metals helps as well. And let's say you have silver, you're going to be protected on the downside and the upside. That's just my opinion. So I know some people were questioning my price predictions. Now, a lot of this is just one man's opinion, right? Um, it depends on what the deciders do with the money creation. They could stop printing money tomorrow. Do I think they will? No. But if they did, you would see massive falling prices and deflation. Now, if you ask 100 people, I think 100 people will probably say no, they're not going to stop printing money tomorrow. So I don't think that's a very likely scenario. But again, if there's a surprise event, what's called a black swan, where something happens, I mean, look at 2020. We saw the stock market crash by almost 40%. No one thought that could ever happen. They thought they were just going to keep on pumping the market up, pumping the market up. But when something big like that happens, and I say like that, like what happened in 2020, things can happen. And we might see something big very soon that could bring this whole market to its knees, bring the economy to a screeching halt. Could be a escalation of some sort of war with the United States involved, or even if it's China, Taiwan. Let's say something happens in Taiwan, and there's been talks about uh, some big things happening in Taiwan. The either the biggest or one of the biggest chip producers in the world. I'm not talking about Pringles. I'm talking about electronic component chips. Taiwan. If something happens over there, like a war, first you could see inflation because of all the chip shortages that we're going to see. And automobile prices. You think automobile prices are high now? Just wait until there's even a bigger chip shortage. If something ever happens to the largest or one of the largest chip manufacturing countries, such as Taiwan. Now, also a correction to what I said just a few minutes ago about the alternate or the real inflation number put out by Shadow Stats. If we go back to the method that was used in 1980, which is the broadest method of calculating inflation, we're looking at about 13, close to 14% inflation right now. So this is still not good. At the maximum, it was about 17%, looking at the 1980 method, but now we're just under, looks like close to 14%. But not something that hardly anyone's wages are keeping up with, and that's why we know that these events, cannot last forever. There's going to be a breaking point, and it looks like it's going to be the consumer that's going to be the weak link, or what breaks first. All right, let's wrap it up with this here. People say that I often have bad news or not so good news. Well, here's some good news. Oil down below $77 a barrel. Other news, gold down to $19.91 as I'm recording this. Silver holding at $25. 10-year bond, 3.57. What's going to happen with that will tell us what's going to happen with mortgage rate. All right, everybody, hope you're well. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you down in comments. We'll see you there. And everybody keep stacking. Be well. Bye for now.